In this exercise, we're going to practice a create table statement. We'll be doing this in the homework from our Python program, but I still recommend that you try the create table statement yourself in the SQLite client so you can see how it works. We've got some fields here, some column heads and types that we're going to want to use. We also have a sample query down here. I'm now going to attempt to create a create query statement and make a table based on what we have here. You can do the exact same thing using the product table. It'll be up to you to figure out which column names and types you're going to need, although you'll find a lot of that in the discussion, and we'll look at that in a second. Create table IP. From SQLite, I put in a semicolon. That's necessary for us to be able to tell SQLite that we're done. If we don't see any error, then that means that the command succeeded. If I now say tables, I should see the IP table. And if I see schema, then I'll see the create table syntax that I used. Schema is usually used to describe the table, and that's what this create table syntax is doing. It's not only the syntax we use to create a table, but it's also describing the table, which is the purpose of a create table. Now for the homework and the discussion, when we do a create table, we see the sample and discuss exactly how you can create a create table statement in your script. But you can also practice doing the create table from the SQLite client, which is what I recommend. The way you're going to do that is you're going to determine what the create table should be based on these field values. And you're going to use these field values as a way to decide which types you want to create. Because if you look at the sample, and you can also compare it to the sample we used in the IP, create table says create table, the name of the table, and then we have a list of fields. Each field name or each column name is followed by its type. So if you look at this data, you should be able to see that there ought to be a brand column, and it ought to be of type text. There ought to be a list price column, and it should be type real. What's type real? Well, it's a floating point field. That's what it's called in SQLite 3. It's called real. And then you'll have some other fields that all need to be text, except it looks like we have another real field here. What about the product ID? Some of you wanted to know whether or not that should be an integer, but if you look closely at the data for these products, some of the IDs actually have letters in them. So we're going to need that to be a text field as well. What I recommend you do is go to your SQLite client and create that product table. And then when you've created a successful create table query, you can then paste it directly into your script that you'll be writing when we do this from a script.